Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the fourth edition of Emerging Valley, this digital edition today. Under the title of Resilience, it is a real pleasure and honour to have you with us here today. There are almost 2,000 people signed up on the Emerging Valley website. And as I said, the theme of this year's session is resilience. And we are going to be taking a step back and thinking together about innovation and the future of the relationships between Marseille and Africa. Europe and Africa, here in Marseille, that represents this bridge between Europe and Africa. I would like to thank all of our partners. We are lucky to have many elected officials with us here today, and I would like to thank the City of Marseille, the Mayor, Benoît Payan. It's an honour that you are here with us today. It's a real privilege. Thank you very much to Euro-Mediterranean, Laura-Agnès Karadec, who is with us for the third time. Thank you very much, Laura-Agnès Karadec. City of Marseille and Euro-Mediterranean are historic partners of Emerging Valley. And there's also the Department of the Bouches-du-Rhône, and it is a real pleasure to say that the Bouches-du-Rhône department and the Aix-Marseille-Provence Metropolis is also here, and they've been with us for the last 4 years. And we're trying to get this territory moving. This relationship between the two continents is all about young people, innovation, entrepreneurship. And here in Marseille, in this territory, we're embodying this. So what are we going to do? We're going to have these key themes that we're going to be talking about. We have almost 200 speakers joining us for this event. This is from 45 different countries. This is a new record for us. European countries, yes, but also African countries. And a lot of stakeholders joining us from the Near and Middle East. We're going to be talking about investment in business in a COVID context, the question of relationships, this common destiny between the European and the African continents. We're very lucky to have high-level debate with the European Union and also African representatives. We're bringing these stakeholders together at Emerging Valley with major investors, INP, GISEC, and we're working together to see how these big players can support entrepreneurship in these two continents. We're going to be talking about COVID, e-health, resilience. And what better place than here in Marseille to talk about best practice and sharing best practice for fighting against COVID-19. Thanks to digital technologies, we're going to be talking about territorial resilience with Euro-Mediterranean. How can cities become a refuge in this systemic crisis? How can local authorities innovate and draw inspiration from African innovation? We're going to be talking about the potential of the cultural and creative industries. Again, in Marseille, we have a huge potential here. There are there's a lot of filming that takes place here in France and in Europe, and we're going to be talking about the launch of the Africa 2020 season. We're fortunate to have the main artist and representative here that is going to be giving us a keynote speech towards the end of the afternoon. We're going to be talking about how cultural activities can be a means of supporting entrepreneurs and creating shared value between Europe and Africa. And Marseille has La Friche, MCLS, all of the different stakeholders working together today in order to create synergies in this field from Marseille with the African and creative and cultural industries. After this short introduction, I'm now going to hand over to our elected officials for the official opening, but I would like to thank all of the stakeholders, the French Institute, the European Commission. For the second year, the Commission has chosen Marseille for dialogue with African ecosystems. We're going to be hearing from Thierry Breton, the European Commissioner, who has something to say about Marseille, and I'm sure that will be very inspirational. I'd like to thank all of our private partners as well, whether it's Expertise France, Société Générale, the Kirfam Foundation. I would also like to thank the ambassador networks, the French ambassador to South Africa, to Senegal and to Nigeria, who have helped us and supported us in identifying the best talent in order to build bridges with French, European and African innovation stakeholders. I am now going to hand over to our elected officials. I would like to hand over to Benoît Payan, the mayor of the city of Marseille, to open this session now. And you'll be speaking on behalf of the city of Marseille. Over to you. Thank you very much. I imagine that you can hear me. Mrs. President, the Managing Director, people here in Marseille with me today. I am especially proud to be welcoming you here in Marseille today. Here in Marseille, African and European entrepreneurs are meeting. We're coming together to find solutions to the huge challenges of our century: climate crises, health crises, energy crises and social crises, educational crises, cultural crises that are especially impacting us at the moment. Together, we are embarking on this necessary transition in order to give trade and industry a new face. Marseille has been built on sharing, encounters, and this summit is faithful to the promise that this port city has embodied for over 2,600 years. I would like to start my speech by thanking the organisers of Emerging Valley and its inspirational leader, Samir Abdelkrim, who has found the right solution in this uncertain time in order to make this event happen. This crisis has reminded us of our own condition. Tomorrow, more than ever, we need to be at the heart of development and technology challenges. In 10 years, we will need to be capable of putting this into practice, and that is what you are working on. No technology, no technological innovation will find a market if it forgets the reason why it exists. It's not just about making money or profit. It's about contributing to inventing solutions to all of the challenges of our age. In order to continue innovating, creating services to as many people as possible, you can and you need to and you will be counting on the support of the city of Marseille. We will be alongside you, providing the conditions that you need in order to create this wealth with quality schools, transport infrastructure and networks, high quality public services within an environment that requires us to be inventive and determined at the moment. That's what we're trying to do with Laura Agnès Karadec, President of Euro-Mediterranean. Every day, go beyond our differences in order to create synergy in our territory, as you said. You can count on us, and as you know, we are also counting on you for economic development, management of cities. We are all convinced that these aspects cannot be dissociated from each other. We cannot operate without one another. The African continent is facing huge demographic growth and historic technological growth. And innovation, their innovation should inspire us. With the engagement of all entrepreneurs and citizens, making these 21st century cities breathable, livable, and a place of freedom for young men and women who will be able to live in the best possible situations, developing what is most precious to humankind, intelligence, as you were saying, Samir, in your introduction. This is the focus that I would like to give to my introduction. We have a lot of partners, particularly African cities, and some of these partnerships are long-standing, like Abidjan, Dakar, Bamako, Lomé, Algiers, Rabat, Alexandria. Marseille is a trampoline into a springboard into the African continent. We are in the background for European startups. They're a springboard as well for African startups, which are increasingly are increasingly looking to come into the European market. The underground cables that we have across the west and east coasts of Africa leave Marseille, and this is a huge opportunity for us, and we need to seize this opportunity. It is incredibly important for the city, for the African continent, and for the European continent. And the Francophone organization as well is an opportunity, and we need to take care of that. And personally, I know that this is something that we share. It's very important, particularly for medicine here in Marseille. Biotechnology, science, environmental science, engineering. We're building bridges like you're doing here. But we also need to be inspired from you. You are teaching us every day, making our public policy effective by working with you. And you have been far from us until now, but now we are moving together through entrepreneurship. Research. The Aix-Marseille University is the largest French-speaking university in the world. I know that the managing director of the French Development Agency is listening to us based in Marseille. And these are major advantages that we need to put to fruition. As you know, I've not forgotten East Africa, and the more English-speaking Southern Africa needs to develop, build bridges with parts of the continent that have not yet been fully explored, where we've invested a lot in the south and in the east of Africa with a strategic geopolitical status, but there are other parts that I wanted to finish with two aspects which I think really echo what I'm saying. This is the Smart Port Initiative, first of all. The President mentioned this 3 years ago, at the same time almost as the first edition of Emerging Valley, with the Aix-Marseille Chamber of Industry as well, which I would like to thank for their commitment and engagement through Aix-Marseille University and the Marseille Port Authority. These large public structures have been able to identify specific aspects in order to increase competitiveness, working with new and young businesses from across the world. This is how we've always worked, and this is something that we need to draw inspiration from. We need to showcase this. They've been building bridges between business entrepreneurs and look at EDF, for instance, and who's been able to build real links between large businesses and startups. And this has been incredibly helpful for our territory and also for the continent. I would also like to talk about Marseille's application for the UNESCO label for creative industries. This would be incredible recognition. I'm sure that Laura Agnès Karadec will agree with me, as she is pushing for this as well. And this will give our city real recognition for film and creative industries. You were talking earlier about digital content creation, which is taking off in Marseille and in Africa as well. There's exponential growth in this field, and that's excellent. We need to meet these challenges together. This is an economic challenge which is very unique, and also an educational challenge, a social, cultural challenge. It's incredible. Once again, we need to step into this now and reinforce it. We're at the heart of the largest industrial revolution since the 19th century. That is what we're doing, what you're creating. Our lives are being turned upside down through this revolution. Our relationship to the world and to the economy is being turned on its head. This is also true for the links between Europe and Africa. You can have the full support, convinced support of the city of Marseille and its elected officials in all the work that you are going to be doing and that you have already done. Please be inventive. Please fight for what you believe in over the few days that we've spent together, but for the rest of your lives as well. I wish you all very fruitful discussions now, and I hope to be receiving you in Marseille as soon as possible for some amazing projects between our two continents. Thank you. Thank you very much, the Mayor of Marseille, Benoît Payan, for your introductory remarks. You are right. Africa is looking to us, is listening to us at the highest possible level. We have 3 ministers, the Guinean health minister, the youth and employment minister of Mauritania, and the entrepreneurship minister from Senegal. And you know that Dakar and Marseille have very close relationships, and they will be with us very shortly on stage. I'm now going to hand over to Laura-Agnès Karadec, who knows Emerging Valley very well now, in order to welcome us in the name of the EPA Euro-Méditerranée Agency. Can you hear me? Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to welcome the president of the metropolis, the mayor of Marseille, who is here with us today, and Samir Abdelkrim, who is founder of Emerging Valley and who has poured all of his energy and faith into this need for bridges between Africa, Europe, and of course Marseille. And we can see the speakers, the quality of the speakers over the next few days, the scale that this international summit of Emerging Valley can take. So congratulations for this success. And I will, of course, be back for the 5th edition. Euro-Mediterranean has been a partner since the start. Our metropolitan ecosystem with French tech, Euro-Méditerranée, needs to be part of this bridge that's being built between Europe and Africa. We have become a hub thanks to the port in Marseille. As the mayor of Marseille said, the port has a global position thanks to the digital cables as well under the sea, which we have there in Marseille. There are 14 cables, putting us in 9th place globally in terms of data circulation. There are 3 new cables that will be here by the end of the year. We're going to become 4th in the world, which is phenomenal for the city of Marseille. 4.5 billion connections in the world will be sourced from Marseille. So this hub needs to be used for Africa and also for Southern Europe. The airport as well is an airport with direct links to Africa with regular flights every single day. And Euro-Méditerranée, which is the largest business district in Southern Europe here in Marseille. Marseille is perfectly positioned to give international businesses the ideal base to reach their markets. The aim is to make the ex-Marseille-Provence metropolis the hub of innovation and digital between Europe and Africa. We have identified 6 sectors at metropolis level that really meets our, there's digital and creative industries. You talked about that. We can see that through the entire world, metropolises have had this creative drive, cultural drive, which has then been supported by industrial technology. There's then health, as the mayor of Marseille said, with our ex-Marseille University. And this will be a major theme across these 2 days of discussions. How can we react in the face of COVID? How has Africa reacted? Mechanics and aerospace, logistics and ports, CMA, CGM, etc. Environment and energy. We will have Biodiversity 2.0 as one of the themes that we'll be discussing. Tourism as well with the Provence brand. We really hope that things will get back to normal for the tourism sector shortly. And Euro-Méditerranée is part of this drive. Euro-Méditerranée is also there as a creator of a sustainable Mediterranean city. It's 25 years of history in building this Mediterranean city with discussions between large African cities. And the Marseille example is very relevant here. This is a central business district with over 1 million square meters of office space, lots of public equipment, 18,000 new housing, many hectares of green space, public space, facilities, all of it within a dynamic of innovation, because innovation is at the heart of Euro-Méditerranée. We were given Eco City label in 2009. We have a right for innovation, a right to experiment. We can develop solutions, industrial processes that are not yet standardized. And this label, this ability to experiment is very important, because the aim is to be successful and it needs to be reproduced at Mediterranean scale or in Africa, as African startups are developing aspects that we could reproduce here in the Mediterranean sustainable city, the resilient city that is able to reinvent itself, while seeking to create a balance between life standards, nature within the city, public space, and also the development of the city. This innovation is a strong marker in the Euro-Mediterranean district. We have a recycling treatment plant for earth that has been polluted. We have multi-functional areas. We're looking for a hybrid city of the future, a post-COVID city, because we have identified that our way of working, the way that residents work and cities work, will be changed considerably with remote working, work from home, etc. So how can we think about the city of the future that will work differently? How can we live in it? The experience of lockdown has been very difficult for many people. How can we create living spaces that provide a quality of life for people who are in lockdown? How could we imagine the lives of elderly populations? All of this is being thought through at the moment, and Marseille residents are not the only people facing this issue at the moment. Whenever anybody has a good experiment that should be reproduced elsewhere, we have also launched a competition which is very important, which is called Med-Innovant for local startups. Over the past 2 years, we've been developing Med-Innovant Africa, because we have noticed that in Africa, in big cities, there is a concentration of young people, younger than 30. It's phenomenal. The percentage of young people working in Africa is very high. Young employees, young professionals who have only had digital technologies, have not had the process of change and technological change that we have had here. They almost instantly reached that. I went with you to Casablanca when we see these young people and the energy and the innovation that is being developed there. That should benefit Africa, yes, but also benefit territories that are similar. I can't say that we're similar to Africa, but we encounter some of the same sustainable development issues, the energy, carbon, accounting, etc. These bridges that you're building between Africa and Europe are very important, and Med-Innovant Africa was very successful in this edition. We received 190 applications from all four corners of the African continent. We saw incredible mobilization from African tech in the fight against COVID-19. And the collective responses that can be made to that. This year, Euro-Méditerranée wanted the Med Innovate Africa competition to be focused on territorial resilience. The 5 finalists are inspirational and talented startups. The 2 winners will be presented tomorrow live. So I think that this is something that is very important, that continues to strengthen the links that we have. In the name of the city of Marseille and Euro-Méditerranée, we want to see our territory succeed. I hope that this dynamic will continue. We're going to continue developing a modern and diverse offer in order to welcome new companies to become the hub of innovation in the Mediterranean. I wish you an excellent summit. I'm sure that it will be the reflection of innovation. I can see in your face that there is a lot of energy in there. Thank you very much. Thank you for what Euro-Mediterranean is doing to bring the continents together, supporting urban innovation and resilience. And we're going to see the winners of Med Innovate Africa. I would like to welcome the participants of that. The M Accelerator, all of these people that are working together in Aix-Marseille, innovating in order to find solutions, shared solutions between the continents. I'm now going to ask you to welcome the President of the Departmental Council of Bouches-du-Rhône and President of the Aix-Marseille-Provence Metropolis, is a historical partner here, Mrs. Martine Vassal, who is now going to welcome us during this inaugural opening session. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Today, more than ever, we need to get ready for the future. We need to see how we can continue to protect and support our territory and fight against the current crises that we're all facing. We need to find solutions to continue the recovery. This is the 4th edition of the Emerging Valley Summit. And the main topic of the summit is territorial resilience. We, since we existed, have supported African tech and European tech. And we are the main partner. Indeed, our territory is a real benchmark. It is a platform and an unmissable bridge between Europe and Africa. Africa is a priority destination for us in terms of metropolitan and economic development. The Métropole Aix-Marseille-Provence benefits from an extremely important geostrategic position and the many historical, cultural and economical links that it has. We have a very dynamic ecosystem that is focused on the Mediterranean. We are one of the first exporters in the Mediterranean, one of the biggest ports in the Mediterranean as well, and one of the biggest hubs between Europe and Africa. We have around 20% of African investments that are made from Africa in Europe, and we are one of the biggest strengths to continue fighting for everything that we believe in. Emerging Valley has become an unmissable event in the calendar. In just 2 days, even though we are working online this time, to give the opportunity to African startups, to give them the opportunity to meet European investments. Africa has a very high potential for investment, and thanks to all of the work that is done in Europe, this will be made possible. We all know that the issues are huge in terms of wealth, creating jobs, economic development, and this goes for both sides of the Mediterranean. We need to absolutely implement these privileged links to help African companies as well as our own local companies to discuss and invest. We need to attract and value all of the talent that works in Africa, and this goes for both the metropole and emerging Mediterranean, and this is part of a much more general scheme. What we want to do is unite all of the energies that are around to strengthen our strike force. And we do this with the great number of partners that we have. The new Provence Africa Connect prize that we are going to award for the first time will be the perfect opportunity to really strengthen our ambition and to repeat it to everyone who's listening. We want to go beyond borders, even though we are perhaps stuck behind them at the moment, but this is not stopping us in any way. You can count on us, you can count on our institution to assume our role in supporting you and more importantly, to prepare our territory for tomorrow. Thank you very much, Mrs. Martine Vassal, the chairwoman of the Département of the Bouches-du-Rhône and the Métropole Aix-Marseille-Provence. We've had some very inspirational speeches already this morning from Mr. Benoît Payon and Martine Vassal, as well as Laure-Agnès Karadec. And we are going to move on by talking with our next speaker, who is the Managing Director of the French Development Agency, who is a historical partner with Emerging Valley, Mr. Rémi Rioux. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today, even though it is remotely, and I'm so happy to be here participating in the Emerging Valley Summit. This summit has been helping innovative stakeholders cooperate in Africa. Cooperation and innovation are incredibly important actors and aspects of our potential to innovate. The current crisis that we are looking in the face at the moment has really thrown up many challenges which we need to overcome. When we think about Africa, we need to remind ourselves that it's a very inspirational place full of men and women who have demonstrated their ability to resist and to innovate in order to tackle the challenges thrown up by the pandemic. I would like to talk about one of the projects that the AFD has at the moment in Kenya, which is to strengthen the health cover in the country. We need to put the technology in the hands of the most vulnerable populations. But this innovative force has helped over 80% of African startups gain access to finance in Europe in order to get past the cap of being SMEs. The FDA also already helps over 16,000 companies in Africa, and this has been done under the presidency of Emmanuel Macron. The Social and Inclusive Business Camp, the SIBC, has been around since 2016 and has been supporting African startups to help them share their experience. We are an important partner between the SIBC and the Emerging Valley Summit because we want to project African startups onto the world stage. And we've been doing this from Marseille, where we have one of our campuses. Thank you so much to Benoît Payon and Martine Vassal, who is the president of the Bouches-du-Rhône department, as well as the Métropole Aix-Marseille. Because in Africa, a large part of our future is held. We need to be proud of mobilizing ourselves to build relationships with the African continent in both entrepreneurship as well as when thinking about developmental stakeholders and sustainable technologies. So welcome to everyone to the Emerging Valleys Summit. I really hope you have a good opportunity to exchange with one another. So enjoy the coming 2 days. Thank you very much, Mr. Rémi Rioux, the Chief Executive Officer of the French Development Agency. I would like to remind you that the biodiversity plenary organized with the Bouches-du-Rhône department will have Mr. Rémi Rioux and Didier Rioux, who is the Vice President of the department, in it. We will also have the Oceanographic Institute, Paul Ricard, who will be speaking as well, amongst many of the other stakeholders and speakers that we have today. Digital technology is one of the most important topics of today that we will be looking at as well in the biodiversity plenary. Now I would like to ask you to welcome the Minister, Franck Riester, who has an important message for Marseille about the relationship between the two continents. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last few years, Emerging Valley has become the unmissable opportunity for African tech. We have a lot to thank Samuel Abdelkrim for all of the initiatives that he has set up in order to help foster the discussions between Africa and Europe, as well as the finances and the politicians who are involved. I would like to salute the President of the Métropole, Martine Vassal, and the Mayor of Marseille, Benoît Payan. Marseille is a very important place between Africa and Europe, thanks to its history and the fact that it is one of the most important ports in the Mediterranean. The tools that have been implemented on a local level are a really important relay point for the entire country of France. We have very important and strong relationships with the African continent, as well as the universities in Africa. On top of this project, there is entrepreneurship and innovation. And thanks to all of the African countries that have got on board with the project, that have implemented young people and women in business, we'll be able to have very rich discussions today. We have many different SMEs that are here that are aiming to strengthen their development and continue fighting in the future. We have 60% of formal employment that are in SMEs, so we need to take that into consideration when we think about emergence and development. We want to contribute to the Digital Africa initiatives that the FDA has come up with in order to support African tech. We have many different seed funds and capital investments that are available. This is one of the main initiatives that we wanted to place at the disposal of all of the African SMEs so that to enable them to continue developing in the future. Over the next few months, we have a series of events that we are organizing to make the relationships between Europe and Africa even more solid. In Paris, on the 18th of May, there is an event that will hopefully enable SMEs in Africa gain even more visibility and access to funds in Europe. I am thinking, of course, about the new Africa-France summit that will also be happening in Montpellier next year, whereby entrepreneurs will be coming into France to show the role that they will have in the development between Europe and Africa. I am also thinking about the Africa Inspire and Connect that will be happening on the 2nd of June this year. These events are new opportunities to strengthen the interactions between African and French companies. And of course, public operators and local authorities on top of startup companies need to tackle all of the challenges that are currently in place and that we are all currently facing. I'm therefore very glad that summits such as Emerging Valley exist, as they really serve to help the partnerships and to catalyze innovation in the future. I'm counting on you to continue fighting to strengthen the role of companies in Africa on the European stage. Thank you very much to all of our councillors. I would like to ask any of you if you would like to come back to anything that has been said so far, specifically with regard to any of the relationships that we are looking to strengthen. Going to next move on to have the Commissioner at the European Commission, Thierry Breton, who will say a few words. Mr. Minister, Frank, Mr. Payon, the Mayor of Marseille, all of the ambassadors that we have here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that it's a great honor for me to be participating today in the opening session of Emerging Mediterranean. We have digital technology that is accelerating, and we are all aware of that, particularly thanks to the pandemic that is currently across the world. Not just only Africa or Europe can face up to it, we have to be working together. Digital technology opens up many different opportunities that we need to grab hold of for both continents. 2019 was one of the years where we set up many different partnerships between Europe and Africa. Thanks to, for example, the European Commission, that I would like to thank most particularly. The Euro-Africa Start Force has been working with digital technology very closely and have come up with many important conclusions. The first of which is an essential question: how can we make sure that there will be an affordable access to finance for everyone? How can we also guarantee for everyone that they will have the digital skills necessary to continue? How can we support businesses and, of course, improve the lives of all of our citizens in France and elsewhere? This is something that has been supported by the Euro-Africa Union, and we've been able to contribute to all of the work that we've been doing together. The President of the Commission has helped apply the partnerships that we have between Europe and Africa. Africa, of course, is one of our closest neighbors and most important partners as well. Last year, at the beginning of the pandemic, the Commission adopted an initiative that goes for the entire world as well as just for Europe. We want to focus on transforming digital technology. We want to be pragmatic with our approach across all of the sectors. for every citizen, and we also want to be very demanding about things like cybersecurity, environmental regulations, as this is a very important condition to help digital technology develop. This priority defines many agreements that are in place with companies in Africa and Europe. We need to be focusing on digital technology, and we have recently adopted a very fundamental text which is looking to 2030 and will hopefully give us some more clear ideas about that. Over the next few years, we will be guiding the perspectives we have in four main areas. First of all, talent, which is the most essential, the infrastructures, which are required to help broadcast the support for digital technology, in companies, which is absolutely essential thanks to these new tools, and finally, the digitalization of public administrations, which is an opportunity and a necessity. Our goal is to help digital transformation technology and make it available to all of our citizens, wherever they may be. Of course, with all of the help from our neighbors and partners. We have also launched a new structure, which is a hub known as the Digital Development Hub, with the support of several member states and our partners. Our mission is clear. We want to put our efforts into synergy to help support digitalization in Africa, which will constitute, of course, a very difficult period, but we think that we can manage it perfectly well. We think that the relationship between the two continents needs to be structured, and we want to underpin the relationships and the partnerships between Africa and Europe. The spirit of entrepreneurship is particularly strong in Africa, and I would like to underline that by saying that the numerous SMEs in Africa are really the spearhead of this new digital revolution. By working very closely with one another, we shall be able to continue going beyond what we could have thought possible in the past. 19th of May last year, there was an event that really underlined the importance of connectivity between Africa and Europe. This can be underlined, for example, by the Team Europe approach by them. The Commission looked at the feasibility with its partners to implement this project over the next few years and months. I would also like to pay tribute to Marseille and Provence. Our region has, for many, many years, always been home to many different millionaires and many different privileged links with all of the cultures in Africa and the Mediterranean. And the recent situation has showcased Marseille as one of the leading areas in the Mediterranean. I think that Marseille is the absolutely perfect place to support this meeting, and I really hope to be able to count on the effort of all of the commissioners in this initiative. Today, the wealth of knowledge in our two great continents, as well as the representatives that we have of the diaspora, needs to be mobilized. I would like to pay tribute to the mayor of Marseille and all of the elected representatives in the region to thank them for all of the support and help that they give to our initiatives. Today, this event is a real confirmation of the fact that Marseille and its local region is a key area in Mediterranean and African development. I would like to thank all of you as well who embody, if I may say so, the spirit of our partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruton, for your opening remarks. I would also like to thank our elected officials. Thank you very much to the Mayor of Marseille, to the President of Euro-Méditerranée. Thank you very much for taking part in the official opening of Emerging Valley. Thank you very much to Martine Vassal as well. And we're going to start with our first panel discussion now in just 2 minutes. So thank you very much to all of you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again at the next edition, the 5th edition of Emerging Valley, shortly next year. Thank you. Welcome back to this first plenary session following the opening session that we just had with our elected officials, with Franck Rister, with Rémi Héroux, the European Commissioner Thierry Breton, and then the Mayor of Marseille, and Mrs. Gadarek, Ms. Vassal, who opened this session with us. And we are now going to move into the major challenges between the European and African continents. We are lucky to have a large panel of prestigious speakers here to talk with us. This dialogue between Africa and Europe, between the African Union, the European Union, between investors and on-the-ground stakeholders, startups. We're going to be talking about how we can see new partnerships in innovation between Africa and Europe through the D4D hub that the Commissioner went into great detail on. I would like you to welcome our panel here. We have Fatoumata, who is the managing partner of Django. She is connecting in from Senegal. Thank you very much. We have the Minister, Papa Amadoussa, who is Minister of Entrepreneurship for Women and Young People in Senegal. He will be joining us very shortly. We're lucky to have Mr. Ambami, who is Innovation Manager for the African Union. Thank you very much, Ambani. I know that you've taken time out of your schedule to be with us here today, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being there, Ambani. I know you speak a little bit French.
We are fortunate also to have Thibaut Kleiner with us today, who is Director of Strategy, Policy and Communication at the European Commission. Hello, Thibaut. And we are also very fortunate to have Jeanne van Witter, who is Jérémy here, Jérémy Pellet, who is CEO of Expertise France.
We have the pleasure to be with Mrs. Sabine Muller. She's the head of Africa for the GIZ.
GIZ has a very important role in the support of entrepreneurs today. This is a first here at Emerging Valley. We are very lucky to have Mr. Jean Van Witter with us, who is the CEO of Enabel. Enabel is Belgian corporation. This is a little bit like the AFD in Belgium, and he is very involved in the coordination of this major program. I would like to start, as we have the African Union with us, with Papa Amadou Sarr is going to be joining us in a few minutes' time.
Mr. Director, according to you and following Mr. Commissioner opening remarks, how the D4D Up platform can help reinforce and strengthen the innovation and African innovation? Alors, je crois que Mbani, do you hear me?
Yes, I got you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samir, and good afternoon, panelists. I'm glad to join you this afternoon during the Emerging Valley 2021 event. Thank you for inviting the African Union Commission to be part of this evolving platform that has been going on for, this is my second time to participate in this forum. So I'm very glad to be part of the family that is actually pushing for innovation for startups in Africa. Yes, the intervention by the Commissioner on Digital for Development, D4D, was very assuring to us from the African Union Commission, especially given that we have a lot of lessons that we have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, where we have seen a new era being defined for digital cooperation. We envisage that the D4D hub will create robust regional and sub-regional nodes or sub-hubs that will actually propel and assist us, particularly in Africa, to spur a digitally enabled socio-economic transformation as we see technology and development becoming more and more integrated. So we are very excited because innovations and digitalization are already stimulating job creation in Africa, addressing poverty, reducing inequality, and they are facilitating the delivery of goods and services in the continent, and thereby allowing our various countries to begin to benefit from the fourth industrial revolution. For example, we've got the mobile money platform, which is very strong in Africa. We've got the M-Pesa in Kenya, and a lot is happening in that area. But what is more important with the D4D for us in Africa is the huge impact it will have by carrying our own efforts at the Commission in the implementation of our ambitious and far-reaching continental digital transform strategy that is anchored on, we want to create an enabling environment in the continent for digitalization. We want to develop policies and regulations. We want to foster digital infrastructure. And we've been working with DG Connect on a number of projects. And one of them is Africa Connect, where we've been pushing for the establishment of digital networks that can enable education and research. We also want to see digital innovation and entrepreneurship, trade in the context of the African Free Trade Area being boosted. We want to ensure that digitalization assists us in public health systems, and also to foster education, agriculture, emerging technologies, but more importantly, to push for research and development to support the African digital ecosystem. So for us, the G4G is really a defining moment to learn from the COVID and to define a new global digital cooperation amongst our countries and continents. Thank you very much, Mr. Samiri, for that.
Thank you, Ambani. Thank you very much for being there with us. It's a great honor to have the point of view, your point of view, and the vision for our participants, the vision of the African Union. You are a very important partner. And I will ask your counterpart for Europe, the European Commission.
Thibault Kleiner, could you please add to what the Commissioner said, Thierry Breton? Could you explain the DG Connect strategy, which is at the origin of the D4D hub? Why have you selected a multilateral implementation of this new tool? And where are you in that at the moment? Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be with you today and to have heard from our friends from the African Union already. I think that the Commissioner said very clearly that we are in a key moment in the project at the moment. D4D Hub is the culmination of a strategy that started in 2018, where we launched a task force between Europe and Africa in order to define priorities in the digital economy. And we now have a philosophy. Between the European Union and the African Union, we want partnerships between equals. We're going far further than just reality. We want the ecosystems in Africa and the ecosystems in Europe to be developing as partners. And we want this development to have a clear benefit for the private sector, for African entrepreneurs, in order to benefit the entire continent. D4D Hub is a platform that builds bridges between Africa and Europe. It's also an incredible coordination instrument between Europeans. Our approach is called Team Europe. We want to work together between the different member states in the European Union, but also with the private sector, which is a very important point, which is why we're using this platform for concrete aspects. We want to implement projects, innovate with all of the different stakeholders. And some of our peers our counterparts in Emerging Valley are here today. Do meet with them, see where we're at, so that our partners in Africa can mobilize alongside our member states, not just Germany, France or Belgium. We've got around 10 partners, but we want more European and African partners. We don't want this just to be a partnership. We want it to be a machine to do projects and to develop ecosystems. Thank you very much, Mr. Kleiner. I'm going to go to another very involved operator, which is Expertise France. They're partners of Emerging Valley for the second year, and they have been working with us to organize an excellent workshop on entrepreneurship in fragile and at-risk areas in Libya as well. So do look up that workshop tomorrow. Jeremy, you are part of the consortium here. What is this cooperation? How are you working with the consortium on the ground? What kind of projects are you supporting at the moment? It's always a pleasure to see as many friends up here on the stage, so thank you very much and welcome everybody. My name is Mr. Pellet. I'm CEO of Expertise France. Welcome to Thibault Kleiner. We've been working together for over 15 years now. Perhaps I could just say something about what we're trying to do at Expertise France as an agency providing technical assistance to help public partners like GIZ. What we are doing within the consortium. Digital is such an essential aspect in the African continent, as we heard earlier from Mr. Macheleni, but it has lots of different aspects. Everything starts with the private sector and individual will, but this needs to be accompanied by structuring public policy in order to develop this ecosystem with lots of data management and value. That digital needs to be pushing forward so that the ecosystem can work towards all sustainable development goals across the continent. What we've been noticing in the consortium with Team Europe and the European Union, there's a European signature that needs to be provided across all of these different aspects. We need to be working together between the European Union, the African Union, and all partners and agencies, implementing agencies, so that we can support innovative entrepreneurship in these different fields, working to share knowledge, share pool resources, and to implement shared policies. And that is why Expertise France is working alongside other cooperation agencies at all entrepreneurship, public-private partnership levels. This is vital to us and needs to be at the heart of the initiative. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you for sharing that insight. I'm now going to go straight over to Sabine Müller. You are Africa Director of the German Agency for Development, GIZ. I would also like to welcome the Minister, Papa Amadou Sarr, who is General Minister for Entrepreneurship of Women and Young People in Senegal. I will be coming to you in a moment. But Sabine Müller, GIZ is a very active player on the ground supporting African startups and entrepreneurs. Could you please set out the initiatives that you are doing in Africa and perhaps African businesses, if you can say as much about your projects as possible. And as members of this D4D coalition, how are you working on the ground with all of these different stakeholders to support African innovation and entrepreneurship?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Yes, you mentioned already under the D4D hub, we developed a certain number of flagship programs, and I may present some of them just to get you some information how we are working. Amongst these initiatives, the African-European Digital Innovation Bridge, for instance, and the Uau Data Flagship were both now launched in December last year. And the African-European Digital Innovation Bridge is a flagship that exemplarily shows what a combination of the old, traditional, and the new digital worlds can mean. The African Digital Innovation Bridge. Africa has seen a digital entrepreneurship boom, and tech entrepreneurs are those that currently drive innovation on the continent. At the same time, SMEs, which are the backbone of every economy, too often lack sufficient knowledge how to master their own digital transformation. They risk staying behind. And digitalized SMEs can bring innovative solutions to challenges like climate change or resource efficiency and help spread innovations throughout countries and regions. So how we can enable SMEs to embrace the digital transition? An approach to fulfill these visions has been taken up by the European Commission, the European member states, Germany, France, Belgium, as well as partners from Africa and Europe. Is the so-called African-European Digital Innovation Bridge. This bridge will strengthen digital and innovation ecosystems in Africa and promote intercontinental dialogue between Africa and European science, technology, and innovation actors. What's the approach? The approach is at the core of the bridge are digital innovation hubs, helping traditional enterprises to take the first steps on the journey towards their own digital transformation. And these hubs are inspired by the European concept of digital innovation hubs, and they are now also spreading over the African continent. These hubs are kind of one-stop shops that help enterprises to become more competitive using digital technologies by providing access to financial or technical expertise as well as implementation possibilities. For startups, the digital innovation hubs can also be useful, finding companies interested to test their new products, find venture capital, connect with players in their own or other ecosystems. Another initiative is the Uau Data Flagship. It aims for a fair and sovereign data economy based on shared values and policies and inclusive economic growth, and supports the use and the EU's ambition to foster joint data spaces. And the benefits for startups should be manifold. It means better access and use of open data and data markets, an increase in investments in African data infrastructure, data technologies and services which are crucial and beneficial for startups, and the harmonization of data protection, secure data collection, and data storage on the continent. So these are just some examples under this D4D initiative.
Much. I'm going to be handing over to Papa Madoussa, who has joined back, but I would like to go to you first, Fatoumata, with your experience. Like you, Mr. Minister, you've often come to Emerging Valley, you've taken part in debate many times. As founder of Django, you work with a lot of different startups, not just in Africa, but across the Pan-African continent, with a social, real impact on the everyday lives of populations. How do you support these startups, particularly in scaling up? And could you say that these African startups, and this is what D4D Hub is doing, are they looking more to the northern European side in order to develop their activity and to develop win-win partnerships between African ecosystems and European ecosystems? Good afternoon, Samir. That's an excellent question. I would say that African startups that I'm supporting clearly express that they have certain needs. The first is the need for funding, which is why Django is also an investment company. In 2018, we supported 5 startups, and 5 years later, we're hoping to have 25 startups with a capital, with a venture investment. We've got needs for operational implementation with a business model. It can be very difficult to grow, and going from a proof of concept phase to a large growth phase is very difficult, and this is why it's interesting to see the value proposition of Expertise France and other funders in the region. We often need to bring expertise, whether it's marketing, technology, human resources even occasionally, in order to help them to have operational excellence alongside the funding in order to deliver on their business model and their impact. The third dimension that's very critical and is often requested by startups in African countries that are small, in Togo, Senegal, etc., we can have a limit, almost a geographical limit to scaling up, and it can be interesting to have an expansion strategy. An expansion strategy can be regional or Pan-African. If you're in Senegal, you can work in Burkina Faso, Mali, but you can go further than that. What's interesting in our portfolio is to observe the behavior. So 2 entrepreneurs, in particular one in Nigeria, who's expanding in Eastern Europe now. This is in the field of financial services. Does factoring, allows SMEs to get their invoices paid. Another example is in Ivory Coast, an entrepreneur who is launching a French entity for tech startup in education, digital education services. It's very important to see the possibility of corridors between Africa and Europe, depending on financing, technical assistance, but also for expansion. We see a lot of French startups looking to work in the African continent, and so this is going in both directions as well. Fatoumata, I will be coming back to you later, but I'm going to hand over to the minister now, Mr. Papa Amadou Sarr. So this is for the quick entrepreneurship of women and young people in Senegal. You provide support for Senegal startups playing a major role in the ecosystem. I know that the startups and innovation are a real at the center of the new economy that Senegal is promoting. So why are you supporting new businesses, and how are you strengthening partnerships between Europe and Africa? What is the role in all of them? Thank you very much, Samir, for the invitation to join you. I'm sorry that I was running late. I was in a press conference. Activity in Senegal is currently very affected by young persons' employment, and we're trying to put a lot of resources in place. I say hello to Jeremy and Fatoumata, who I know personally, and hello to everybody else. My name is Papa Amadoussa. I am General Minister for Quick Entrepreneurship of Women and Young People. I've been working in this for 3 years alongside Samir for supporting startups and SMEs, both in the digital sector, but also in other sectors, like Jeremy's been doing at AFD. We've got 20 million euros to support Senegalese startups. Startups and innovation are now an integral part of the development strategy in Senegal through the Senegal Plan. The development plan is for 2035. The aim is that through digital technologies, the Digital Strategy 2025 is to contribute to the GDP of Senegal, bringing digital technologies up to 10%. And I was saying that in the department that I lead for women and young people's entrepreneurship, we want to bring digital technologies and innovation into that in order to have multi-sector growth in culture, farming, fishing, agricultural transformation and processing, and the creative industries. And this is how we've injected at least 3 billion African francs between 2018 and 2020 in startups at the cutting edge of technology, using blockchain, but also very on-the-ground solutions, use of agricultural technologies, farming, with a partnership with Israel, who's supporting us with different agricultural techniques. I'm in partnership with American universities as well, and French structures like Creative Valley, in order to create 3 large programs for incubation and acceleration. We've got 10 hubs. I heard earlier that the European Commission talking about the D4D hub. We've launched the D hub, which implements an ecosystem that Samir, you visited recently. This is of incubation, acceleration for new technology, and also startups working within that with public-private partnerships. So young people who won a big contest last year were all financed by the DER, by the department, whether it's in agriculture or farming or any other sector. We are creating links between startups, developing new products for the ministries in tax and insurance, for instance. We have a roadmap for developing innovation in healthcare, transport, etc. And thanks to this support from the DER, we've been able to introduce the first startup that's been copied over from the Tunisian startup of 3 years for a 9-year policy here in partnership with the finance ministry, private sector and incubators. And then Afrique Excel has awarded 5 Senegalese startups who've been integrated into the incubator and have been able to go to Las Vegas for a conference. This is all, we're creating innovation and creating the largest incubator and accelerator in Africa in partnership with Abu Dhabi. And we're looking to see how we can continue our partnership together. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Minister for this example of public-private policy in order to encourage startups. I'm now going to go over to Mr. Jean Van Wetter. I think it's also very important to incorporate funders. How can funding institutions be better incorporated into the ecosystem in order to better address this issue of funding, and how can we create new funding sources? So, Mr. Jean Van Wetter, you are Managing Director of Enabel. I know that you're active in Senegal, working in digitalization and supporting digital entrepreneurs in Africa. Could you go into some detail in some of these projects for entrepreneurship in Africa?
Thank you very much. First of all, congratulations for organizing this summit. I would like to say hi to my colleagues from the D4D Hub, as well as the ministers that we collaborate with from Senegal. So thank you to everyone who is here today with us, who works in the digital technology and startups. So I'm really happy to meet everyone else that I don't know as well. I'm very happy to be participating as well in this conference. It would be much better if we were in Marseille, but we're having to make do with being online. So Belgian cooperation with the Enabel company is something that the Prime Minister actually really wanted to underline and make a priority. How can we get digital technology onto the agenda? This is something that we see as an opportunity to accelerate development as well as a challenge. As a development agency, we have come up with many of the, we've put together a list of the challenges that we want to tackle because we really see it as a good opportunity to accelerate business. And we need to make sure that everyone is involved under this umbrella of digital technology, and to make sure that the digital technology is done as best as possible to include everyone in that. So we have 135 projects in many different countries across Africa. I'll give you a few examples, such as in Senegal, as I mentioned, we have a project in Kaolax, the Green Tech Hub. In Benin, we have launched a collaboration with some partners, the DigiBoost project, which is all about digital technology as well. We also have the WeHubBit, which is financed by Belgium. This enables us to support NGOs and scale-up enterprises to help them with their scale-up process and their development goals. We have 300,000 euros that we've injected into these projects, into these 135 projects overall. We have 4 main topics that we work on that are linked to digital strategies. The first is everything to do with digital skills, which we call the Digital Numeracy Skills Project. This is all about digital entrepreneurship. We also have a main area which is all about inclusion, and I think that Europe has brought a lot of partnerships to this table from America and Asia. And we also have the digitalization of services area, which is very important as well. So we have many different European approaches to inclusion. Thank you very much, Mr. Managing Director. Thibault Klein, I'd like to come back to you, please. The Africa-Europe hub that will be happening in 2021 in a context that will have been impacted, of course, by the COVID pandemic. Digital technology will take a very important role during this summit. What are the issues that you'll be looking at, and what kind of position will digital technology have, especially for African startups? Could you please tell us about this, the event that will be happening in the autumn period? Thank you very much. Of course, the Africa-Europe Summit is a very important summit for us in the European Union. Of course, digital technology will have a very important position for this summit. we have launched a European strategy for the next decade. We call it the Digital Compass. And this will help us to organize our priorities with regard to Africa. What is clear is that this summit will be a very good opportunity to showcase our collaborations, because the strategies that we have in the Digital Compass project have include many different digital technology projects. For example, what I'm talking about is really something that hopefully, if at this summit, will come out with some very concrete results. Certain regions are more involved in connectivity, in skills, in support for business and entrepreneurship, as well as structuring our economy and our societies. Thanks to, for example, the PRIDA initiative, which is one of our fundamental initiatives about European regulations. This will be the opportunity at this summit, the Europe-Africa Summit, I remind you, to launch some of the things which we've been working on. I would like to just remind everyone that at the Emerging Valley Conference, this is an extremely important networking opportunity that will help everyone get prepared for the summit in the autumn time, and to start thinking about their priorities to do with investment and skills and entrepreneurship. Thank you very much, Mr. Kleiner. I would like to just come back to talking about the Europe-Africa Summit. The African Union is very...
I come back to you, Ambani. The African Union is very involved already in many cooperation programs between the two continents. We can, for example, mention the Africa-Europe Innovation Partnership, AEP, in which you are very highly involved. How can we reinforce such partnerships, and in which direction, according to you?
Thank you very much, Samir, for that question. And indeed, I'm glad to report that the cooperation between EU and Africa is very vibrant, and it is based on the joint strategy that was adopted by the heads of state and government in 2007. It reflects the desire of our continents to forge stronger links in key areas of cooperation, in promising areas. And what is more important is that science, technology, and innovation are at the top of that particular cooperation and are well embedded in our cooperation. Going further, in this cooperation of science, technology, and innovation, we managed to put some structures on the ground to enable the participation of different stakeholders in this partnership. We created a high-level policy dialogue, which has enabled us to set priorities and agree on an implementation, a joint implementation, which is mutual and beneficial. There are quite a lot of activities currently taking place. We have adopted two roadmaps of AU-EU research and innovation partnerships. One is on food, nutrition, and security and sustainable agriculture. We have another roadmap on climate change and sustainable energy. We created technical working groups for which innovation partnership between Africa and Europe is one of the working groups. The idea is to push for the participation of a diverse stakeholder models, so that we bring in new players, we bring in incubators, we bring in business accelerators, micro, small, and medium enterprises. We bring in philanthropists, banks, so that we promote the collaboration within an ecosystem which is broader. So going forward and really to enhance our partnership is to open up and allow the participation of different stakeholders that are not traditionally involved in the partnerships, such as us, the politicians and policymakers. But we really want to see you, the startups, the innovators coming in, defining policies, and helping the policymakers to create an enabling environment and enable you to access the markets, to access funding, as well as to remove the policy barriers that actually impede innovation between our two continents. So the whole idea is really to mobilize different stakeholders to come together to work in a more uh, unforeseen way. If you look at the D4D we are talking about today, it's one of the opportunities that we are actually creating within the partnership to enable people to function, to operate, to have access to the digital platforms. And here in Africa, we also have this free trade area, single African air transport. We've got free movement of people. And all this is to enable different stakeholders to participate in the partnership. Let's bring the partnerships to the people and let the people participate in our partnership. That is what I would recommend going further within our collaboration. Thank you very much, Samir.
Merci, Hambani. Thank you, Hambani. I come back to you, Mrs. Müller.
We know that digital technology tools are relatively new and have not been considered by many different stakeholders in the past. What digital technology helps us do is to shine light on the potential of partnerships that will be put in place between Africa and Europe.
First of all, I would like to challenge you on the term recent here, because what we observe from GIZ side is that digital and innovation are topics that are on the rise on the African continent since quite some time. Africa is home to the youngest population in the world and is progressing rapidly in digital adoption. Tech hubs and entrepreneurs working on artificial intelligence, blockchain, enterprise resource planning, software, and so on. So these are technologies and issues that are not only discussed in Europe, but also in the context of the countries we work with. Startups from Africa help solve problems European companies are facing. For instance, like in an accelerator with Airbus, that we were implementing as a GIZ Make IT in Africa program with startups from Africa. So African startups are helping Airbus. And the tech entrepreneurs are a key driver of the digital revolution in Africa. And Africa has seen a digital entrepreneurship boom, and tech entrepreneurs are those that currently drive innovation in the continent. And some example of our engagement in this area is, for instance, the Make IT program in Africa. Because this tries to support digital entrepreneurs and innovative startups and promote digital innovation for sustainable and inclusive development. And this since 2017, it's not that recent. And the Make IT in Africa strengthens local innovation ecosystems to improve the framework conditions for tech startups in Africa to develop their innovative digital ideas into marketable products and services. Thereby, Make IT in Africa supports tech startups through improving their access to skills, capital, and markets. And since 2017, Make IT in Africa supported almost 500 tech startups from 26 African countries in growing their businesses. They supported startups, raised over 100 million euro investments, and reached more than 2 million customers with their digital innovation. 95 startups scaled their products and services into new markets. And all these experiences together made us realize that this is not again just another trend, but a development to stay, with huge potential to push the knowledge and technology transfer in both directions, Germany, EU towards Africa and Africa towards Germany, EU, forming a bridge and help local economies by job creation and solving environmental issues. To answer your question, what does this say about our relationship with the partners in Africa? I would say we moved from technology transfer into co-creation, into a win-win situation for both partners. I would argue we need to put much more resources and speed to strengthen this cooperation. Our new standard, Digital by Default, which is now mandatory for any new GIZ project, will enhance this speed even further. I hope that with this we are actively translating the promise of a reinvented partnership between our two continents into concrete action. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So what kind of place do you have in scaling up for African companies? What can you tell us about how investment can really help African startups, specifically with relation to all of the initiatives that the ministers have already mentioned here today? What kind of vision do you have about this? Well, investment funds are obviously a key part of any scaling up process. For me, I would say that the main element is to account for the contexts. This is the willingness of governments and local stakeholders to want to continue on these subjects. Investment funds are an incredible lever in this context. So we want to be able to bring solutions as well to this willingness. This can be, for example, using financing, which is, of course, an incredibly useful tool. Coming back to talking about Senegal, there is a very important political willingness to structure solutions and to support digital technology for especially young people and women. But this is not always the case. In other countries, for example, in Tunisia, we have supported many different companies, and we also work with banks to implement financing tools. But the most expensive example that we have is, for example, Libya. It's a very tricky context in Libya at the moment due to the war, so it makes things very difficult. However, we've been able to implement a financing platform thanks to an online management school that we have started working with. And we have French stakeholders that are involved in that project as well that have helped us structure support funds that will help strengthen this country, which is currently in a very fragile context. A lot of the Libyan population has been completely brushed aside by technological revolutions and developments because they simply do not have the infrastructure to support them. The entire financial community and as well as the investment funds on a local and worldwide basis want to invest in African startups. But for example, for the FDA, we try to support business and entrepreneurship across the entire continent. I think that it is obvious, though, because it is a potential market which has a lot of opportunities and a lot of young startup companies that are creating a great deal of wealth. Besides, this is a very specific market that investors must know very well before putting their money into it. It is important to know the specific local challenges and issues in the African continent, and we've been very successful in many different examples that we have undertaken. For example, Jeremy Jesenberg has written a book a few years ago detailing the numerous successes that he has had. So we have many great stories about how financial support has helped local companies and African startups across the entire African continent. And this is something that we want to continue doing and replicate in other contexts as well. We need to understand very well how to support businesses with regard to local politics as well. And in the past, we have seen that this is very much a feasible feat. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I would next like to come back to Papadou Amasa. You are one of the most important companies you're one of the most important businessmen who has set up companies in Senegal. This is a dynamic which was really started and been replicated in many different contexts. In your experience as a Senegalese startupper, because sometimes we talk about D4D hub and digital logic. What do you need to do to start up a business on the African continent? Well, first of all, we started with the Startup Act. This is a space that has integrated into the community with the central banks and the local economy as well. This has enabled us to work in symbiosis with the services on a local and regional scale. With regard to the African continent, African tech, well, it's something that we can come back to talk about later. When this will be 100% effective, because at the moment it's not quite the case. It'd be much more easy to talk about startups on a continental scale at a later date. But at the space that we have, I was personally in Ivory Coast, and I've seen that the local motivation of the startups with regard to the local economy, I've seen it with my own eyes. We have supported companies in Guinea to implement a favorable economy as well. We've done the same thing in Gambia and Guinea-Bissau. So the Startup Act has managed to set up collaborations with incubators, ambassadors, and other stakeholders. Today, this is the kind of dynamic that is being exported to Rwanda, Gabon, and other countries thanks to the expertise of Senegalese entrepreneurs. Thank you. We've seen that the energy that the Startup Act has been really been able to revolutionize the business climate in Senegal. This is an important component of the local ecosystem. We're going to be talking to our next speaker who will tell us more about the work that they've been doing in Senegal, specifically with regards to the political climate. So Fatoumata, I'm going to come back to you. You are an investor with Django. My question is, some of your finances and your investments come from the private sector. How, in your opinion, do investors interact with, and how do they see local entrepreneurs, and how can you see that whether or not their investments will have a high level of local impact? So we have, for example, institutional financiers. We can have private financiers as well, as you mentioned. In the first case, just as Mrs. Mueller was saying, the challenge is really to try and create employment for young people and women. This is something that is very important for fundraising, for health, for environment. We have support for geopolitical structures as well that are very underfinanced. With regard to private sectors and private investment, we have much more of a business strategy approach because, for example, I would like to look at the Britel group, which is from France. Their motivation is to try and understand how much Africa can grow in the future, what kind of potential it has. And to do this, they wanted to develop partnerships with local stakeholders that they wanted to do as part of their foundation. They were very motivated to getting involved with the local ecosystem and to invest in local companies, to buy shares in order to be able to use these startups as a good foot in the door to access a win-win dimension and help bring support to the local economy. This is the kind of thing which we need for local development. We also, when looking at purely private investment, well, there are many different opportunities, and this is the kind of thing that we need, actually. We need to continue developing private investment. Thank you very much, Fatoumata. Very interesting. So we are coming towards the end of the debate. How can we reinvent the partnership in Africa? We're going to be just discussing this with our next speaker. How do you think that COVID-19 has actually ended up working as a kind of digital accelerator itself? It's not just the case in Africa, but across the entire globe. I don't like to use the word opportunity, but how can we sort of talk about whether or not COVID-19 has actually ended up being a development accelerator tool to enable us to have more of an impact on the programs that we have mentioned in the field? Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, I will reply in English, so I balance the language in the panel. So thank you. Yes, I think it's a very good question. I would say two things. The first thing, and it's a bit related to your first question, I think that COVID has accelerated the partnership between European agencies, and I think Team Europe concept was born after this the beginning of the COVID crisis, and the idea was to put all European actors together and enable. We had the co-presidency of the practitioners network, this network of European development agencies, and we took the opportunity, I don't like this word neither, but to try to create a strategic agenda between European agencies. And then, of course, a more partnership with our African partners. And the nice thing with digitalization is that, yeah, there are less borders, and you can have such panels where we're together and we can discuss new ideas. So clearly, it has boosted some partnerships within Europe and between Europe and Africa. Then secondly, in terms of innovation, clearly we see, give an example, in Uganda, we were working in the field of education and we had some pilot on using digital tools to improve access to education to vulnerable communities. Because the school closed, we managed to create what we called a sandbox, which puts teachers in contact with the students, and we to make sure that more people could have access to it, more people could have access to a computer. We had a partnership with MTN, which is the mobile phone provider in Uganda, to give free access and provide free internet access to vulnerable communities. So yes, that was an accelerator. Another example, in Benin, we created Fab Lab to be able to duplicate medical equipment to respond to the COVID. And thanks to the European Commission, we also launched a lot of new projects to strengthen health systems, but also using e-health. Yes, a lot of opportunities, but the challenge I mentioned in the beginning is still there. We see in Europe as well, COVID has exacerbated inequalities between countries and within countries, and the same applies to countries in Africa. So we should not be naive about that and make sure that we continue to fill the gap and use the opportunities to make sure we focus on the most vulnerable people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now coming to the end of this very interesting first panel discussion, showing us which direction collaboration and cooperation between our two continents is heading in. I'm going to turn to Hambani Masheleni for the final words here. The question that I would like to ask you is that why is it so important to reinvent this relationship between Africa, the African continent, and the European continent? And what tools do we have in order to revolutionize our perspective?
Probably you need to say it again in English for that one. Samir, can you please repeat in English?
Yes, okay, sorry. You have the final word for this plenary. From your point of view, why it is so important to reinvent the relationship between Africa and Europe through the digital partnership?
Yeah, thank you very much for that pertinent question. I think it's a question that all of us will take home as the outcome of this meeting, that we have to reinvent the partnership between Africa and Europe in terms of digitalization. You see, we have to realize that as the world emerges out of this COVID pandemic, innovation and digitalization will continue to accelerate exponentially. And we at the African Union and European Union must stand to support the digitalization process through the interventions that we have put in place, such as the 4D, the D4D. The previous speaker was very, very correct in terms of how we can promote the access to digital processes to remove the inequalities that have been created by the pandemic. So reinvention of our digital, reinvention of our relationship with regard to digitalization is very crucial because this is the new norm. We are now operating in a new norm that is purely based on digitalization, and therefore it is critical for us to reflect and look at how we can really boost the relationship in terms of the digitalization between the two continents, creating opportunities for our citizens, allowing them to move in different ways that have never been seen. If you think of the how the COVID is being combated, the one of the most important tool we have is digitalization. People to travel from one country to another with digitalization, it makes it easy for our COVID test to be validated from one point to another within seconds. And your travel is easy. Goods, people, food, everything. So digitalization is going to be the new norm. And therefore reinventing our relationship streamlined to digitalization for development is very crucial. And we at the African Union will push for that through our digital transformation strategy. And we indeed will benefit from DG Connect through the D4D hub that we envisage to also be very much installed on the African continent. Thank you very much for inviting the African Union Commission to this. Merci.
Thank you, merci. Thank you very much, Ambani. Thank you for your words. And this is the conclusion of the very positive and dynamic conclusion of this very prestigious and strategic plenary.
Thank you very much to the Minister, Mr. Papa Amadou Sarr. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Thibaut Kleiner, Director of Strategy at DG Connect with the European Commission. Thank you very much, Jérémy Poulet, CEO of Expertise France. Thank you very much, Sabine Müller, Africa Director of GIZ. Thank you very much, Fatoumata, who has made time for us today despite your busy schedule, founder of Django in Africa. Thank you very much, Jean Van Wetter, who is Managing Director of Enabel, and you are very welcome in person. You are all welcome to join us in person in Marseille when possible. And finally, I would like to thank Mr. Hambani Machelini, who finished off this plenary session and is head of the Division for Science and Technology at the African Union. Thank you very much, everybody. And we will be happy to have you back in just a few minutes' time. We're going to be looking at investors in Africa to see what their resilient strategies were with the COVID-19 crisis. We're going to be hearing from African startups. We've got Tommy Davis, Kenza Hamrou. We've got Céline Coron, INP as well. And we are looking forward to having you back with us very soon. Thank you very much to this panel. See you again shortly.